Everyone seems to be talking about the new cinematic mode in the iPhone 13 phones, but is it as good as it looks? Cinematic mode is far from perfect, but if you follow some basic rules, stick to what the camera can actually do, and don't do anything crazy that the camera or lenses will struggle with, you can get some pretty amazing results. So this video is all about the cinematic mode, best settings, things to be aware of, things to avoid, and if you stick to the end, I'll give you a big bonus tip to make the footage look like this, what you see now, rather than this, which is well over sharpened and it looks sort of fake, but happens to be the image that you get from the phone when you shoot in cinematic mode on the default app. So what I've learned from using the cinematic mode? Well, first and foremost, if what you film is well shot, nobody's gonna care whether the edges are perfectly defined or whether the background effect is slightly creeping in. That is, as long as what you shot is well shot and you don't go crazy with the depth of field effect. It's not perfect, far from it, but when you play a video, as long as your audience is engaged and entertained, nobody's going to stop and pixel pick. Whether that hairline is out of focus or anything like that. Nobody cares as long as you have their attention, trust me on that. They'll just watch it and they won't even question. That is what you need to get clear in your head. You watch reviews from people complaining it's not as good as film or DSLR lenses, that the edges are not great when using f-stop like 2.8 or similar. Of course it's not perfect, come on, seriously? Have you ever used anything that is first generation that works perfectly? Never. I certainly haven't. It takes a few versions or updates to get refined, and the same applies to cinematic mode. So my biggest tip is, don't push it to where it becomes so freaking obvious, so on your face, that the viewer becomes aware that there is something odd happening in the frame, that it doesn't quite look right. Subtle is the name of the game here. So the biggest tip, trick, whatever you want to call it, is that anything between f2 and 5.6 is pretty much unusable. I'm sorry to break it down to you, but the software is just not there. That is, unless you plan your shots very carefully and the person in front of the camera wears a hat or a cap or anything that creates defined edges. Because anything to do with hair, beard, the camera just cannot accurately separate the foreground from the background. Did you notice why the actors in the Apple promos were using hats or sort of balaclavas or bandanas? Because that allowed them to keep their hair hidden and the phone would get an easy contrast line to do the background separation effect. Only then you may be able to get away with an f2.8. But otherwise, it will look really bad. I recommend you set your f-stop to 10 or 11 or thereabouts, and then play around on a shot-by-shot basis as to whether you can go as low as 4.5 or settle for somewhere in between 11 and 4.5 or 5.6. The best thing though is that even if you were to get it wrong on camera, don't get too worked out over it. You can adjust things later, shot by shot, and this is mind-blowing and what makes the cinematic mode so amazing and unique. And it's also so easy to do. You can go into the Edit tab and adjust the f-stop to something that looks good. Remember about the issue with the separation accuracy. You'll probably find that anywhere around 10 or 11 will give you good results, and pushing to 4.5 or 6 will give you more blur, but potentially bleeding into the subject. If you have an Apple TV, you can do screen mirroring and edit the footage on a larger screen, which will help you big time in getting a better result. That is the way I do it, and it's fantastic. You can also edit the focus points, and this is also incredible. The white dots that you see on the frame are the focus pulls the phone has done for you or that you did on camera. You can override those manually by tapping on the screen where you want the focus to be at those points. This is amazing, and I think this is going to revolutionize the way people film, not just content for social media, but films and TV. Now, if you're fed up with the camera always defaulting to the wrong settings that you don't want, there is now a way to keep your last few settings, and it's as easy as going into the camera menu and turn that on. My advice, do this as soon as possible, because there is nothing more frustrating than having to do it every time you launch the app. It will drive you insane, and it will save you a lot of aggro, and will make sure that whatever settings you record on, they'll be kept on for when you come back into the cinematic mode. Simply go into the camera settings and turn it on. It really is that simple. A major issue that I have is the fact that there is absolutely no way to control the white balance. And this is a real issue if you move around. Because the moment you move around, even if it's just a few steps, you might walk under or cross a shadow or angle the phone in a different way, the color temperature will change and the phone will try to automatically compensate for it, and you have no control over it whatsoever. This is the one thing that drives me mad. They give you so-called Pro Tools, but they leave out some pretty basic adjustments. I'm baffled by this, and I could rant over it, but you know, it is what it is, and hopefully they'll address this in a software update or in the 14 next year. What this means is that you need to try to do static shots or compose your shots in a way that you don't move a lot. It's a bit limited, I'll give you that, but hey, like I said earlier, you need to understand the strengths and the weaknesses and you'll get really good results. Talking heads, great. Walking around following someone, maybe not so great. You get the idea. In terms of exposure, use the exposure dial and try to keep it between -0.5 to -1. The iPhone always tries to overexpose the image a bit, and keeping it within that range will give you much better results. Saying this doesn't mean that the exposure is locked. You wish. You still have to deal with the fact that you can't lock exposure and there is nothing you can do about it. So just as with color balance, if you move around, it's inevitable you'll get changes in brightness levels. And you'll notice that when following someone or doing a review shot, anything that requires movement, you see a change in brightness, even if it's slight. Any instances where you go from darks to brights or vice versa, the phone will adjust the brightness levels automatically. And this is an absolute pain until third-party apps like Filmic Pro get to implement cinematic mode, if they ever do, because they may never be able to do so. You need to be really aware of this. What this means is that if you keep the phone fairly locked on your subject, you should be fine. But if you move, you might run into trouble. Even if you light an interior shot really well, the moment you move the camera, brightness levels can easily change and you'll have the phone adjusting without you being able to do anything about it. So with that in mind, play to the strengths, don't move as much. You can see from the montage I just showed you that you can still get pretty amazing results if you're aware of this problem and plan your shots to avoid the auto exposure kicking in. Now that stabilization is amazing. While you film, it might look a little bit shaky and unstable, but when you play back, it's almost as if magic is happening right in front of your eyes. It really is amazing. But with this level of stabilization, you might ask yourself, do I still need a gimbal? I would say, of course you do. For creative shots like going from the ground up, review shots and those type of moving shots, you still need a gimbal. Yes, it's great for some handheld shots, but don't think gimbals are out of the picture. Try doing a moving shot handheld, focusing on someone's feet and then crane up to introduce the character, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is something really important that you need to be super aware of. Cinematic mode is always going to be hunting for faces. It's designed to do so. So if you want to shoot small objects, plants, things without defined lines that the phone can easily separate from the background, you'll struggle and will probably be better off with a standard camera lens. If you shoot people or faces, again, plan your shots carefully. If you're in a square with lots of people, lock your focus by tapping twice on someone's face. It will give you the AF tracking lock sign and keep that person's face focused at all times. This is really, really good. Very well implemented, honestly. Until that is, someone crosses the frame and then it will automatically shift and try to focus on that face without you being able to do anything about it. Back to what I said earlier, compose and plan your shots carefully. Make sure you don't get people walking into the frame. If you're in one of those situations that you can't control crowds, tap and hold down and it will eventually lock AF in a plane. Other than that, if you have multiple people or faces in the frame, the iPhone will always hunt and shift focus on human faces without your control. Once you make a few mistakes, you learn either the easy way or the hard way. But trust me on this, you learn anyway. The yellow box in the frame means what the iPhone is focusing on. White box is what it will focus on. It takes a bit of practice, but you know, this is really easy stuff. The telephoto lens in cinematic mode, which is the lens I'm using now, is great, but only in perfect lighting conditions. The moment light starts to fade, let alone low light, is an absolute piece of crap. It's nowhere near the quality of the main wide. So yes, it's useful and it will certainly give you a different type of look, which for some close-ups you may prefer over the main wide, even though the main wide is a way better lens. But the moment light starts to drop, the quality drops like a stone, so only use this lens in full bright day. Other than that, use the main lens. Okay, so back to my taper trick that I mentioned earlier in the video. And nobody seems to be talking about using ND filters with the cinematic mode. And it makes such a huge difference to the overall quality of the image. The difference between the video looking like what you've seen so far throughout this video and this is the fact that I've been using an ND filter. It honestly makes such a massive difference to the footage because the iPhone by default is way over sharpened. And when you apply the cinematic mode, it kind of looks like it's fake, like the subject has been artificially photoshopped into the background. I really hope you can see this. Try it for yourself. The moment you use an ND, the footage not only gets the digital sharpening reduced, which makes it more natural to blend with the blurred background, but it also looks better because you're using the 180-degree rule. You get a natural motion blur because the shutter speed is set correctly by the iPhone and the footage will look way more pleasant to the eye. And how do I know the iPhone is going to automatically set the shutter speed correctly? Well, it's very easy. Just fire up a third-party app like Filmic Pro, and if in the auto settings the shutter speed is defaulted at 1/50th of a second, the iPhone is going to do exactly the same. I'm going to show you some examples and let me know in the comments below which one feels better and more pleasant to the eye. So what is cinematic mode good for then? Well, static shots, things with little to no movement, talking heads, like for instance this video that was shot entirely on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. If you require movement and the ability to lock exposure and white balance, you're going to need to use a third-party app like Filmic Pro, ProTake or similar. Look, this is a first generation software, so as such don't expect miracles. Hopefully Apple will release the software upgrade later in the future that will allow us to lock exposure and white balance. Personally, I don't count on it, but you never know. We're left with waiting for a third-party app to develop it, get access to the API or hack into it. Who knows? Anyway, I hope you've got now a better understanding on how to get the best out of the cinematic mode. If you want to learn more about how to shoot cinematic video on a smartphone, I have the first of a two-part video series appearing just here, and everything that I talk in there applies to not only the standard lens, but also the cinematic mode. The principles are exactly the same. And if you want to get some inspiration on cool and unique shots that you can do with your phone, I also have another video appearing just up here that I'm sure will get your inspiration fired up in no time.